the fight everybody has recently been talking about, Sean Brady versus Gilbert Burns, coming up for this weekend's UFC Fight Night. Um, I wouldn't have guessed that this would be such a popular fight, but I guess, Gilbert Dorino Burns has been a fighter that has grown in the hearts and minds of many UFC fans. Not particularly for me. I used to be a Gilbert Burns fan, especially after looking at his fight with Chama. But ever since his, losing streak has grown to where it is now, I haven't really been that much of a Gilbert Burns fan, especially not a fan of his brother. But Gilbert Burns is still, like, I'm a fan of the guy outside of the octagon. I feel like he's an absolute great guy, very supportive of his teammates, and just looks like an all-around good guy. Just in the cage, he just frustrates me. But that being said, I think this is an okay fight. I don't really think this is like a fireworks must-see. For one, I feel like this fight is definitely going to be fought on the ground. Gilbert is working striking, and that's what I really wanted to see more from Gilbert, because I feel like his hands he's not really like utilizing the power he's got in his hands as much, because after looking at his fight against Khamzat Chimaev, you can really tell this guy, he's got power. Like, if he looks to strike more with his opponents, I feel like he could pull out more wins. That being said, his jiu-jitsu is really great. He's regarded by certain UFC fighters even as one of the best grapplers in the UFC ever. And I kind of agree. I mean, I feel like Gilbert's ground game is really strong. It could definitely be better, especially after he fought JDM, and how JDM was able to really just kind of scramble out of Gilbert's hold and just finish Gilbert off with ground and pound. That really isn't going to happen for this fight, but let me just get right into it. So, to really understand who's going to win and how this fight is going to go, I really had to look at both fighters' recent fight, and I feel like that's my best way of kind of figuring out how fights will go. Even Dustin Poirier kind of does that, but I won't really go on that much. Anyway, so for Sean Brady, I had to look at his fight against Kelvin Gastelum, which was, quite a while ago, but still it kind of shows that Sean Brady fighting style. He's not much of a striker, although he can kind of hang with certain strikers. He's not much of one. I kind of see Sean Brady much more as a grappler and a ground game type of guy, especially after how he fought Gastelum, which was a very smart way to do it. He really handled the Gastelum fight really well. He turned the fight into a grappling match. He didn't let Gastelum kind of get comfortable with his striking, because that's where Gastelum is most dangerous, especially after how he fought Adesanya. So what he was able to do was get frequent takedowns and bring this fight to the ground in almost every round, and just bring Gastelum to where he's most uncomfortable. Eventually finishing off Gastelum with what I think was an Americana, but I'm not sure. He essentially twisted Kelvin Gastelum's arm back until Kelvin tapped out. So great look for Sean Brady. And then a bunch of people are giving Sean some shit on Twitter because he got beaten by Bilal Muhammad. Bilal's great, so I don't really see that as much of a roast. But anyway, Sean Brady's good. And I feel like, he's in danger if he tries to strike with Gilbert Burns, because Gilbert can fucking strike, man. This guy, again, is heavy-handed, and if you really invite him to strike with you, you might end up paying, unless you're JDM. JDM had really good boxing, so that's why he was really able to kind of hold his own against Gilbert. But if Gilbert were to strike against Sean Brady, I feel like Gilbert Burns would come out on top, at least in the striking category. But I don't feel like Gilbert's going to get much striking in, because I feel like if he does try to strike with Sean Brady, Sean's going to do what he did against Gastelum, and just search for takedowns, continuously trying to search for takedowns and bring this fight to the ground. And if Sean Brady is successful at doing so, I think it'll still be pretty entertaining, because, again, these are both pretty good grapplers going head-to-head. And I feel like since the fight is most likely going to go that way, I'm going to go with Gilbert Burns. I believe he's the underdog. I think somebody recently posted that Gilbert's the underdog. Not surprised because of his losing streak, and because of Sean Brady's, he's only lost once. But I feel like Gilbert could get it done. I think it's a big risk going with Gilbert Burns. That's why it's such an underdog pick, because again of Gilbert's losing streak. I'm a big, you know, like considering losing streaks is a big thing for me. I feel like, you know, if a fighter's on a losing streak, the odds can really, really be weighed against them, especially when you're looking at fighters like Dominic Reyes or Tony Ferguson, where it's just loss after loss, or even Bam Bam Tuivasa for that matter. Fighters who have been good, have shown signs of being really good, but after taking a certain loss, man, they fucking go downhill. So that could just as easily be the case for Gilbert Burns, especially in this fight. But I am going to side with Gilbert Burns. I think this fight goes to the ground, and I think Gilbert is great there, even phenomenal. And I feel like if he especially works on what he failed at doing against JDM, he can come out on top against Sean Brady. I don't know if it'll be a submission. If I had to give you guys a specific way this fight ends, I'm going to take it to a decision. I'm going to play it safe and say Gilbert wins by unanimous decision after collecting a good amount of ground control time. Sean Brady might be the one getting the takedowns. I don't know if Gilbert will go for them. I think Sean will try to bring the fight to the ground, and then Gilbert will oblige and, you know, end up beating Sean Brady on the ground. And I think that's, you know, where Gilbert Burns will win, because he'll collect enough control time on top of Sean Brady, especially going for submission attempts, to win the fight via decision. Because I don't think Sean's going to let Gilbert strike with him a lot, because if Sean Brady were to let Gilbert Burns strike with him, I think Gilbert Burns will come on top and maybe even get a TKO or KO. Because again, Gilbert Burns' hands are extremely heavy, and when he fought Khamzat, we were all able to witness just how good Gilbert can be with his striking if he chooses to really hone in on his striking capabilities and kind of increase his striking IQ and just overall work more striking. Because I feel like he's good enough with his grappling and his ground game. He's just got to work out. He's just got to work out the kinks and the mistakes he especially did against JDM to really be a complete and evolved Gilbert Burns. Well, let's see just how evolved he can be for this fight. Once again, I'm going with Gilbert Burns by decision, unanimous decision after collecting enough ground control time, especially with you know, some submission attempts as well. I don't think he'll get a submission, though. I think Sean Brady will have enough grappling awareness to survive, but still lose by a decision. Let me know what you motherfuckers think. This should be a good fight. I don't know why it's such a popular fight, but it is. Gilbert Burns somehow has a good fan base and has a lot of eyes watching him. So let's see how he does. Love y'all. Let me know what you guys fucking think.